So one day in Ghana, a man named Solomon and his wife Adowa were fast asleep when all of a sudden someone knocked on their door. Adowa immediately got up and went to check who was knocking. But as soon as she opened the door, she saw a man pointing a gun towards her. Adowa began begging, pleading that the man shouldn't harm them. Solomon also woke up and joined in the begging, but just as the man was about to pull the trigger, he stopped and another man walked into the room. This man was a police officer, but instead of the police officer stopping the gunman by either arresting him or even disarming him, he instead walked towards Solomon's wife and handcuffed her. Seeing what had just transpired, Solomon was confused. Like, why would his wife be handcuffed instead of the attacker? He wanted to even challenge the police officer, but the police told him he had no idea what was happening. After the police arrested Adowa, they took her to another house, and there they arrested another man named SK and then took both of them to the police station. Solomon quickly went to this police station and began asking the police what was happening. Right there and then was when the police gave Solomon an answer he never saw coming. They told Solomon that these two people, that is his wife and SK, had planned to take his life that night. Let's rewind. It all began a few years ago when Solomon got his visa to travel and work in South Korea after countless trials. When he received his visa, he celebrated alongside his wife Adowa and even threw a mini party because moving to South Korea would change everything for their family. When you compare the minimum wage in South Korea to Ghana, you will find it is 50 times higher. That means someone working in South Korea could buy a house, a car, a property 50 times faster than someone working in Ghana. So, shortly after the celebration, Solomon began packing and preparing to leave Ghana. He went to the market, purchased everything he needed for his journey, and then finally he left South Korea with one goal in mind: to hustle, make money, and eventually return home to Ghana. When Solomon arrived in South Korea, he quickly settled in and began making good money. Every day after work, he would call his wife Adowa to, check on her, know how she's doing. They would do their lovey video call before Solomon would go to bed. But unknown to Solomon, as soon as he left Ghana, his wife Adowa began seeing another man, SK. In fact, throughout his stay in South Korea, SK and Adowa were together. A few years later, after Solomon had already worked and saved up about $30,000 from working in South Korea, he decided it was time to come back home to Ghana. But you see, Solomon's wife Adowa wasn't too happy about Solomon returning to Ghana because it would mean she and SK wouldn't be together. Right there and then, she and SK began planning. They came up with a brilliant plan to hire a gunman who would break into their house when Solomon returned, steal all the $30,000 he had made in South Korea, and then gun him down. By so doing, they would kill two birds with one stone, remaining together and gaining Solomon's money. So this was how SK and Adowa met a gunman, told him everything they wanted him to do, and then paid him a part payment for carrying out the operation to be completed after the operation was finished. But you see, after receiving this money, for the first time ever, this gunman felt some way about doing this job. He was a bit bothered about having to end the life of a man who hasn't wronged him, a man who has worked and suffered for years in Korea. Because of this feeling, the gunman decided to go to the police and table the matter to the police. The police, on hearing this, decided to set an ambush for Adowa and her boyfriend because they couldn't just go and arrest them without enough proof. So what they came up with was that they told the gunman that he would carry out this mission. He would go there and do everything exactly how Adowa and her boyfriend had told him to do, but he wouldn't kill anybody. Once he knocked on the door and Solomon's wife opened it, it would confirm everything and nail her to the crime. So that particular night, as Solomon's wife opened the door and the gunman came in, the police officer also entered the same house, and this was how they arrested her. Then she directed them to her boyfriend SK's place, whom they also arrested as well. This was how they were able to save Solomon's life, and right now both his wife Adowa and her boyfriend SK have been in police custody since 2023, and they'll be looking at life in prison sentence according to Ghanaian law. If you enjoyed the story, kindly hit the subscribe button or follow me so you don't miss any one.